There's a lot of should've in music, right?
A lot of should've.
A lot of should've. I should have done this. I should have done that. People can't settle with the work that they have done.
100%.
It's really hard to move forward when you're still like living in the past, where you're just listening to your recordings all day and just saying, you know what, oh, I wish I did this, I wish I did that. Do it all the time.
That's a very human. I think that's a very human thing to do.
And it's also a very human thing to be smart and chill the fuck out and do something else. Did I break the fourth wall just now?
That is, yeah, you want to...
Am I supposed to look? We haven't stopped breaking the fourth wall since we started.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I'm just making sure. So I can look at the camera?
Sure.
That was the first part of the conversation, right when the cameras and the audio started rolling. Today we are speaking with David Rozenblatt, a platinum-selling, Grammy-nominated drummer, percussionist, and composer.
Hello, my name is David Rozenblatt, and this is my studio.
As you can imagine, David is a very, very busy dude, so we were fortunate to be able to spend this time with him, and he shares many stories and insights, including how he landed one of his main gigs as Barry Manilow's percussionist. I want to quickly give you some context for this conversation. David had asked me to be engineer and record some percussion overdubs. That session itself started fairly late in the evening, so this conversation that you're about to watch and listen to took place just after we wrapped the overdub session, and my brain cells were pretty sluggish at that point. That combination of being very tired and just a wee little bit of whiskey, this explains our varying energy levels. I feel really, really lucky that my good friends and creative partners were there for this one. Again, my mind was pretty fried, so big thanks to Colin Stanley for being present and keeping the conversation going, and big thanks to James Quesada for running the camera and chiming in with a great question at the end of the night. I'm gonna pop in here and there to add context where needed throughout this video, or to just simplify one of my questions so you don't have to listen to my tired rambling. Okay, with that all being said, let's just get to it. Here is David Rozenblatt, who clearly just made me laugh.
How long have you had this space? I mean, you know.
Well, I was in the building since 1997. In 2002, when I got this place, and it was all flat. We had to build all the walls.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of research went into that. I had a lot of help. I know nothing about recording. I'm a musician, and all I wanted to do was record my projects without having to worry about stopping and not being in the moment. And I also love working with other people, and to give other people also the opportunity to work as an engineer. It's really difficult. Recording studios have been closing left and right, and I do believe in collaboration, and this is why this recording studio exists.
I'm glad you brought up the word collaboration, because, I mean, is that something you were always working towards? Is that something you always liked doing?
To be totally honest, I think it has a lot to do with my starting out as a solo performer, right? And I was being groomed to be a concert pianist. And I did not enjoy being alone on stage. I was not happy with that. I mean, I guess the closest you can come to is play a concerto with an orchestra and sharing, a stage with 80 other people. That's great. But that's not always what you do, and I wasn't really my heart wasn't totally in it because of that. And I love the idea of reacting to others. I love the idea of improvisation, even improvisation during playing classical, when you're playing classical music, you can improvise in different ways. You can improvise through rhythm, play everything that's written, but maybe you want to slow down a little more than others. That's interpretation. Interpretation is a form of improvisation. What was the question?
It wasn't really a question. I'm the worst at asking questions.
No, it's okay. I don't know how I got there.
Okay, so you started as a concert, that route, but then how'd you get into percussion, or like where was the moment in your life you're like, oh wait, I'm more interested in this than that?
Percussion came first anyway. So I was told, and there are pictures of this, plus I was told that when my dad was a sort of a popular musician in Ukraine, in Kiev, and I seem to have been a natural and feeling the beat and creating sounds. When my dad started playing something on the piano, I would pick up spoons and whatnot and play in time. And then they tried me out at a wedding when I was 2.5, apparently, and it was fairly successful. I couldn't reach the pedals.
Yeah.
Sure. But that was about it. Then we left when I was 4. We left the Ukraine to the United States, and I just seemed to have been a natural at playing the drums, holding the sticks properly, I guess. And I started working as a professional when I was 5 years old. My dad was working in a restaurant, and he used me every Saturday to start off. You sneak the kid in to start off to do the kids' parties at Saturday, and when it gets at night. So I would work from like every Saturday and Sunday, sort of being a novelty act, and in that regard, and that was it. But basically, drums, percussion, drums in general was what I started. That was my passion. That was definitely number one. It never changed. I always knew I was going to be a drummer since I was, last I can remember, 4 years old, 5 years old. I already knew that's the only thing I wanted to do anyway. The whole idea of composing and all that. The piano came much later anyway.
Oh, okay.
Even though I started late. Piano stuff started at 6. I started at 9. My facility started to go, and when I got tendonitis, I had to drop piano.
Ooh.
And that was the best moment of my life. And therefore, percussion stayed, and I was already at Juilliard at the time. I auditioned on percussion and not piano, so that when my masters came up, then I could audition on piano, and that was the plan. But that all got foiled because my right hand lost all mobility.
Ooh.
And so that I had to stop and recover.
During your bachelor's degree, you lost mobility in your right hand.
During my bachelor's degree, that's correct.
This is amazing because so out of necessity and this injury, I remember you were telling us right before tonight, we got going tonight, about shaking, using the shaker in your youth as this is how you paid your bills.
That is right. That is right. So basically, this is what got me to pay a down payment and keep my apartment and own real estate. You could flange. Go like this, watch. I don't know if you could pick this up on microphone.
Oh, yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah.
So basically, this little egg, as there's other forms of shaking, other shakers, but basically it's the shaker that pretty much got me through my young adulthood, paying my bills. There was a time when New York was having real sessions, movies, commercials, everything was here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything kind of moved away, but by the time it moved away, I was snagged by this dude. I joined him in my 20s, and I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
How'd you get the gig? Tell me about the Barry gig. How did it come to fruition?
Oh man, Barry Manilow. I've learned more from Barry Manilow than I've learned from 6 years at Juilliard. My mentor was Lou Soloff. Lou Soloff was the trumpet player from Blood, Sweat and Tears and the Manhattan Jazz Quintet with Steve Gadd, my favorite drummer. And it was because of Lou that I was asked to do the gig, because at the time Barry was looking for a percussionist. So the percussionist from Sting, they finished their tour, and then he was sort of being groomed for Barry as his percussionist. And they did this thing at where they used to film Sesame Street in Queens. So that's Astoria, correct. And they were doing the A&E Library Press special, and it was Christmas, and Barry's pretty big on Christmas, as you can tell. For some reason, the chimes, the xylophone, the vibraphone, the timpani were all still covered. So the guy took the gig basically not being able to play the other instruments, but was a brilliant groove player, congas, bongos, timbales, shakers, tambourines, colors, different jingles and whatnot, that sort of thing. Whereas the other instruments was like staying dormant. But I did a record with Lou. Lou also knew that I played drums because I was brought up as a jazz drummer at first before even doing classical piano. And he knew all those things about me, so he easily recommended me. And Lou was a bit of a, he's a practical joker, kind of like the meanest you can possibly imagine. And I was already ready for him. And Joe Giugiani was the contractor for this gig. And apparently Barry stopped the rehearsal and saying, I'm not hearing chimes, I'm not hearing timpani, I'm not hearing bells, I'm not hearing xylophone, I'm not hearing vibraphone. What is happening, right? So they were kind of frantic, and Lou recommends me. Lou Soloff recommends me to join the band. They were not going to kick away the percussionist. They were just going to have me play all the other instruments that he was supposed to play. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they called me in. And by the way, this is, I'm not going to mention his name, but he's the most respected percussionist on the planet. Okay? Like, genius. He's a total genius.
Yeah.
But it was just not the right fit, And it was Lou that recommended. But the way it happened was I just had a baby. He was newborn. By the way, he's going to college now.
Time.
Jesus. I was changing his diaper, and I had the phone like this. This is when I used to have landlines. And I'm like this, and I'm like, hello! And it was Joe Giugiani asking me to, like, you got to come into a story. And it was during the time of the snowstorm in 2003. Okay? Come in, and I heard Lou laughing in the background. I could not know that it was Lou. Like, that's a very distinctive laugh. So like that, and I'm like, oh, fuck, he's doing that shit again to me. And I hung up the phone. Like that. This is how I hung up the phone. Don't put down the phone. It's Joe Giugiani. We need you over to his phone down again because he's like, pranking me. It's the worst kind of jokes. Well, the struggling musician. Are you fucking kidding me? Calls again a third time, and now it's him. It's like, David, don't put down the phone. Okay, so I'm like, okay, yes, this is real. Get your ass over here right now. And of course, I was like, called my mom. My mom came over to take over, and I barreled out to over there. And for some reason, Barry noticed me. The percussionist started throwing me tambourine and shaker. And when I started playing timpani, they started to see that I actually play groove instruments and legit instruments, and, like sort of this drummer mentality, which Barry likes. And I was asked then to do commercial. They were getting ready to do this big tour in the round, the way Sinatra used to do all the arenas. And we did all the, they asked me to just do the promos. And that was sort of like a test. We did Mandalay Bay, and then we got the gig at Elvis's stage in Las Vegas. And by the way, in 2 years, we're going to surpass the amount he spent there, which would make Barry the next person that is like the one that surpassed Elvis.
Wow.
As the main act on that stage.
If you were just coming out of school, or you're getting ready to do your first sessions, like, what are things that you wish you knew or could know, or like, I guess tips from the pros
As a player, or as an engineer.
as a player?
Yes, player.
Because I don't know anything about engineering.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose. Well, you're talking about career in general, in the world, right? In New Zealand, where a lot of the work is happening, and that sort of like recording live instruments for major motion pictures and whatnot. We used to do that.
Yeah.
We used to do that here when I got out of school. They don't do that anymore. And to no one really anymore is aspiring to be a studio musician. They used to be a great thing, right? And there used to be a lot of money in being able to be a studio musician. But now a lot of it has to do with musical production, writing beats, composing. So my advice is, if you're thinking of just simply recording other people's music, forget about it. Record your own music. And if you're going to record your own music, then I'm not. It's not my place to tell you how to do it. It's experimentational. Find a place where you could be at home. You could buy a microphone and something to record you, and that is your teacher. I would say record yourself playing along, maybe with other recordings, to see how you fit in and what you would do for it. But right now, really, people are kind of like doing their own thing. It's this like, I don't even know where to begin to give advice on someone who's, because there's really no one that just like goes, you know what, I'll be going into a studio to record. No one thinks in that way anymore, really, because there's really no money in being able to sell recordings anyway. Right now, it's all about live performances.
Okay, before David continues, I must tell you how he worked during our overdub session. Number one, he listened to the tune he was about to record while looking at a very basic chart, not like writing the notes out. He just listened. And then number two, he might listen again while picking out the various percussion instruments that he was going to utilize, still listening. And then number three, I would hit record and he laid down the whole track in one take, no second takes. And he did this 15 or 20 times. It cannot be overstated how difficult this is at that high level. And it's a testament to both his excellent musicianship and his experience. Now back to the conversation.
Now, as far as doing what we did today, where I had to record for someone else, overdub percussion on top of someone else's work, and the experience of not having to do more than one take takes a long time, and that's called failure. You have to fail. You have to screw up everything in life in order to freaking get to that place where you can do one take. You got to make mistakes. You got to get into trouble. You got to feel embarrassed. You got to put yourself in situations that are not comfortable. That's the only advice I can give for this kind of ease of playing and recording.
The thing that what I loved about listening to you while you were doing that, it felt like, you didn't even listen to the whole song beforehand necessarily. So it felt like you were reacting to the players in the recording. It felt like you were in the room with them.
That's right.
While you were making your part.
That's
you were
right.
Reacting to them because it was new.
Right.
But what you were just saying, though, is that comes with a lot of failure and
Yes.
Discomfort.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Now, we were lucky. Obviously, those were done to a click. But there were times I would get something that's not done to a click and say, put your drums on it. It feels weird without it. But it's all over the place without a click track. And how do you do that? Well, it's a simple test. There's a way of doing that. For example, let's say I ask you to basically clap your hands like this. And my job, right, is to play all the middle notes as you're doing that. And not only just play the middle notes, but play in just so in time that it almost sounds like it's like we're simpatico, right?
mm-hmm.
So you start that, but then what you would do to kind of throw me off, not to switch immediately to a different tempo, but to speed up, slow down, and be sort of dramatic about it. And I'll still try to catch your middle note, which is the illusion, like when someone sends you a track and you try to make it sound groovy, well, it's all an illusion that it sounds, that it's all in time. It's what you play. Everything's relative, right? So that's the thing. For example, here, play anything and just move around. Give me a little more dramatic. All right, that was more like the one that was fast.
Right.
The idea is just to like practice. This is something that I asked my friends to practice with me, so that I could be able to find that middle, find the middle, right? Feel that middle, feel that evenly, anticipate someone going faster and slower, louder and softer. It's anticipation. Again, it's one of those things. It's about doing it over and over again. Getting used to it, so that when you're recording, you're placing yourself in such a way where if something's not necessarily perfect, yeah, you know how to go around it. You feel it. You know, that's about doing, and this whole institution thing, man. This YouTube's, you can learn so much from YouTube if you have a sense for it. You can learn so much online these days. It's like, what's the higher education? I mean, I should somehow be regulated through YouTube or something. I don't know. From home. I think the only issue is that, my son just left for college 4 days ago, and I totally understand how that is. He needs to be around like-minded people. And for me, college right now, and more than anything, and maybe this was always the case, to be around like-minded people. As far as knowledge, oh my goodness, it's all there.
As I, Colin, been getting more into recording and music, the thing that I've been learning, the thing that has been everything, and Chris Agar's taught me a lot, but also is recording doesn't matter. Arranging is everything. I watch a lot of fucking recording content. I don't hear enough people talking about arranging
Right,
and the
yeah.
power of it, and like what you're thinking about when you're thinking through an arrangement in your head, or just thoughts, things that, a checklist that you might hit in your brain when you think an arrangement.
I do have some go-tos. When I hear something fast, I imagine how it would sound when it's slow, like a ballad or something like that. When I hear something slow, I imagine how it would sound when it's fast. Usually, imagining something that's slow just to be fast doesn't work as well as something that's fast to be produced and arranged as slow. Sort of like finding the space and drawing out that emotion even more, and maybe even changing that emotion. So for me, arranging has a lot to do with it being respectful to the audience, so they understand what is happening, and at the same time doing something creative and thinking outside the box. And so there's a marriage here. So the technical part of creating, arranging is a whole other topic, I guess, right? And the technical part of arranging, this is more philosophical, I guess.
Here I ask David if he thinks his arranging skills come from experience or intuition.
It's weird because it's difficult for me to talk about something that sort of, whether it's good or not, that I find natural and without thinking too much about it. I do like to incorporate sort of the philosophical into it, and the concept. What is the concept for this whole thing? What is it going to be like? For example, I'll give a small example. Right, the idea of having a piece of music where the concept is, let's say I was working on a Maya Angelou poem, right, and homage to her was to keep the vocalist singing the words on one note and staying on that entire note the entire time. But what's moving is the chords around it and everything, to make almost the illusion that she's actually bending, going to different notes, but actually she'll be staying on one and only focusing on the dramatic emotion of the words on that one tone, without changing it. And of course, the music would go around it. So that's sort of a conceptual idea of something that I arranged something in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I
So
want to hear it now.
That's more conceptual than maybe, I don't want to say musical, but it's the concept that music, they have to sort of like match. Otherwise, the concept is stronger than, with painting, like it's the first person that comes up with the whole canvas is white with maybe some different, like, you look at it like, okay, well, a lot of people think, well, I can do that. Right? But yeah, you can probably do that, but you were not the first one to invent it or decide what that is. And I think arrangement has a lot to do with that sort of thing. Concept.
Yes. Taste.
And taste again. That's a whole.
And
it depends on the genre.
Cloudy and I think maybe that's part of the reason why it's so difficult to talk about, because I think there's a lot of overlap in that type of. There is psychological, humanity endeavor.
There is, and a lot of people complain. Like pop music has gotten to a certain level where concept, just the way something sounds, sort of beats the actual piece of music. But that's almost thinking backwards. It's like a lot of these people probably never were nominated for a Grammy. Be nominated for a Grammy, win a Grammy, and they say shit like that, and then maybe we'll listen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not in the camp of ragging on pop music. Just
that whole ragging thing and saying that a person, a lot of people will make fun of. People will say, "Well, Elvis was not a real musician because he faked his guitar." It's like Elvis forgot more about music than you will ever fucking know. Okay, okay. Whether he faked a violin, I know musicians that are not even musicians, better musicians than I am, because they know how to listen to music better than I do. That to me is a musician. Sorry, I got a little passionate.
You come from a highly skilled, trained background. You also love improvisation. So as an artist, over the years, like, how do you kind of like keep yourself in the sweet spot of the pendulum between like your skill set versus improvisation? Like how when you feel like you're getting like too rigid on something, how do you kind of break out of it? And when you feel like you don't have enough shape, how do you know what I mean? Like, how do you keep going back and forth?
There have been times where some friends of mine would tell me that I've sold out by joining a pop artist. But again, like I said earlier today, I've learned more about how to be a musician from this pop artist than I've had in that sort of strict training. In many ways, Lou was making fun of me. He would say like, no, it can be really hard for you to, do your own thing if you're going to be, on the plane all the time. And I was like, well, on the plane, I could write. Also, I'll make enough money to do my own projects. I'll have a recording studio. I'll write more and not worry about paying my bills. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if anyone wants any advice as far as like, a lot of people have written coattails to get to where they want to be. I would write on planes. I would spend time in hotel rooms. Now that we had Skype, now we have Zoom, right?
Yeah.
There's all these collaborations that you can do. Gosh, man, I mean, I'm writing a show right now. The connections that I've gotten simply from being a part of something that's much larger than myself is something that I could never imagine. It has given me so much freedom, more freedom than I think than you would think. It's a counterintuitive, I guess.
Well, in a no offense, but in a simple-minded head of the way of looking at the world, if you're just thinking that term like selling out or whatever, it means nothing.
Actually, now I think there's more room for debate with selling out.
Right.
I think
Well,
that
right, especially with as and more broadly as Americans, we were just getting squeezed more and more.
I would say people who write for themselves are the ones that sell out to themselves. Just why don't turn the table? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You sold out. No one wants to listen to your shit because it sucks. All right, do something different. All right, or at least connect yourself to something that you could, where your audience could put their finger on, for fuck's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Even Shakespeare, probably the greatest mythical writer of all time. I don't even know if he fucking existed, whatever.
Yeah, right.
But but even Shakespeare, who put out the greatest, prose of all time, sort of tapped into our humanity.
Yeah.
And it still survives now.
Yep.
So kiss it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that put yourself back in like the 1500s or whatever, and like you're a I don't know, a co-writer or an actor, and one of your more artistic friends like, oh, you're going with Billy Shakespeare, you're selling out.
Brilliant. Oh, beautiful. That's right.
Just you could picture some sad artist in that time period making that exact point.
I would even venture to say that not even that. I just like this is a sort of this new concept. When is the word selling out? You think in the 40s they were saying the word selling out? 50s? Selling out's not in the 60s.
Yeah.
Late 60s.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly.
Selling out.
From selling out shows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Think about the word selling out means you just sold out of your product. You made a living. It's so
You
crazy.
make a living out of the people that listen to your music, you dumbass.
Yeah.
Split the fucking difference at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Or at most. Whatever. Which way you want to look at it.
I think we're
Yeah.
cut it.
Yeah, I don't want to keep
wrapped.
Yeah.
Bam.
I mean, I could talk to you forever, and
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, wrap
Is
with patty cake.
it still on?
I
Did we just end this conversation with
Yeah.
patty cakes?
Yeah.
There you have it. I barely scratched the surface with David. We didn't talk about composing specifically, which I would like to have gotten into, but hey, it was really, really late. I hope you found this conversation interesting, insightful, and helpful. Listening to top-level musicians like David inspires me incessantly. There are a lot of great nuggets throughout this video, but most of all, I do want to share that David is a great person, if you couldn't tell. So he's gonna play us out with some more marimba, recorded on cassette, of course. With that, as always, is peace, and be good to each other.
Just some of it is recorded right, and people are standing right here. You almost cannot hear the different beats, you just hear the long tone. And if you catch this midway, it almost sounds like a choir. Find the right frequency.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers.